how's it going, folks? Welcome to FoundFlix. On this Ending Explained, we're looking at the quite bizarre Iceland set tale Lamb, where a childless couple discover a strange, unnatural newborn in their sheep barn that they decide to raise as their own. But sinister forces are determined to return the creature to the wilderness that birthed her. As I mentioned, the main feeling of this one is just plain weird. I'm sure you guys are aware of the term slow burn, but that usually means that it's building towards something bigger. This one just kind of idles on by for its entire runtime, feeling kind of dreary and dreamlike as a result. I'm sure this is intentional, as this overall comes across like a kind of fairy tale of sorts. It's also extremely vague about the story and its intricacies, and it really doesn't go into detail about much at all, leaving us with many questions about what it all means. But one thing I do know for sure is their faux daughter, the lamb-human hybrid Ada, is just freaking adorable. The overalls, oh my goodness. So for this one, it is definitely a make-your-own interpretation of things kind of style, yet there are some aspects to it that I feel can be determined conclusively. That's why we're here today, trying to answer as many of those questions that the movie leaves us with. So let's pay a visit to Iceland with Lamb, breaking down the story and its ties to mythology, just what the deal with Ada is, and explaining the abrupt ending that leaves many things up in the air. We open out in the blustery snow on what must be some kind of large beast POV, hearing a low growling, and it's pretty high off the ground. It approaches a group of horses that are instantly driven away at the sight, neighing and hoofing in terror. At a barn housing several lambs, they all stare intently as the thing enters. Once it grows closer, they rush to squeeze through a fence, and moments later, one lone lamb steps out, collapsing on the ground and heaving. We can put together from this that this beast creature has impregnated the lamb, and just like that, it's back off into the snowy night. At the nearby farmhouse, Maria is joined by her bearded beau Ingvar, and she's distracted by something at the window, still hearing the creature growling outside. We also hear on the radio that it's Christmas, which might seem trivial, but actually is important in understanding the meaning behind the story in the end. Somewhere in extremely rural and gorgeous Iceland, the couple live a simple, hardworking life, working the land and taking care of the farm, including all those lambs. It appears to be birthing season, helping several pop out some new little babes. In a dinner conversation, Ingvar brings up how scientists have determined that time travel to the future is theoretically possible. But for her, she's more hopeful of being able to return to the past. We don't know quite why that is yet, but there's obviously something that has happened that the couple are still traumatized by. Though there seems to be one more lamb still pregnant, acting restless when she checks on it, but is unsure after checking its belly. The couple are feeling some sense of pride, beaming that this year was better than last year, and in fact, every year on the farm has been better than the one prior. They're killing it at this farm life thing, y'all. Their dog starts barking and looks to be focused on that one lamb in particular for some reason. They realize it is pregnant after all, and this birth isn't as easy peasy as the others, really requiring some elbow grease to get that thing out of there. Something about it seems to disturb them, and she takes it in her arms immediately, but we frustratingly do not get a good look at the critter just yet. They wrap it in a little blanket, seeing its lamb head, and they feed it some milk that the baby gratefully suckles down. And what must be for the first time in a while, everyone appears happy, giving her husband a big smile. Maria is instantly smitten with the lamb, cherishing it in her arms, humming to it and bouncing it around. Ingvar enters with some concern on his face, but says nothing about the sight and continues on. Alone on the tractor, he lets his full feelings come pouring out, getting overwhelmed with emotions and breaking down in tears. While repairing the tractor, his pup calls him over to something, a piece of broken rope on the ground, and it must have been that same lamb. Maria finds it on the side of the house bleeding at the window, and doesn't budge an inch when told to move, catching the little lamb's head peeking inquisitively outside. They're now treating it like their full-fledged own child, sitting on the couch snuggling with it while watching TV like any other couple with a newborn. Her mother continues to voice their displeasure, back to bleeding at the window. Man, that is one sassy lamb. While she's out in the tractor, Maria asks Ingvar to stay with the child, but he doesn't listen, heading off to do other work. When she returns, his negligence proves problematic. They search the house for the lamb, who they are now calling Ada, and there's no sign of her. After searching through the incredibly thick, obscuring fog, they discover her down by the riverside along with her persistent mother. It looks like she must have been the one to take Ada and was trying to actually get it away from the couple. Now we also finally get a good look at the thing. It is a lamb-human hybrid, mostly human body with some lamb, one arm, and of course the head. Woohoo boy! Her mom has returned to express its annoyance further with this unholy setup, but Maria isn't interested, bellowing blowing it for it to go away. It's basically their kid now, no matter what anyone or nature might have to say on the matter. The maternal connection continues to grow stronger, her taking Ada out for a drive and making her a little flower crown. Maria beams when putting it on, calling her beautiful, and see that Ada has grown quite a bit already, wearing a little jacket and everything. It's actually pretty adorable freaking nature. Though as often happens when things are going well, something inevitably comes in and threatens to screw it all up. This time that takes the form of Ingvar's deadbeat brother, first introduced being dumped out of the trunk of a car by some people and left on the side of the road. Yeah, probably into some bad business based on that. Your friends typically don't throw you in the trunk is all I'm saying. Maria has a strange dream of Ada's mother whining as usual, and then strange fuzzy images of the animals with glowing eyes that is weirdly kind of spooky. She wakes up and is determined that she knows what she has to do. She takes out the troublesome animal and puts it down with a rifle. To keep this deed a secret, she drags the body out a ways and buries it there. So now we already know that she's not going to let anything get in the way of being with her new daughter, and that will be tested once more, seeing that Peter has made his way to the farm and presumably witnessed the whole lamb burial thing. Ingvar later encounters his bro sleeping out on a couch in the barn and warmly invites him in for some food. Maria, on the other hand, is a bit more standoffish at the reunion, smirking "you're back again," but does give him a hug. Ada steps in looking bigger than ever, and you can tell Peter is like, what the fuck is happening here? Especially with how casual they are about the whole thing. Ingvar excusing that she's not used to being around strangers. Almost teasing the level of absurdity of things here, Maria and Ada share a playful bath together, her splashing her faux mommy, all watched in befuddlement by Peter in the mirror. He confronts his brother about it. Just what is going on here, dude? To which he only replies, happiness, before walking away. Ada comes in holding hands with Maria to wish Uncle Peter a good night, and he tries to speak up again but gets shut down. You can stay for a while, but don't interfere with our lives, he warns. He does at least lend a hand on the farm, and it's planting season. Ada is there down by the river, staring at her own reflection in the water's ripples. Literally, it seems, trying to figure out just what she is. When Maria offers the guys some coffee, things get a bit weird with Peter, him trying to touch her face. She pulls his hand away, and he doubles down on its greasiness, bringing up seeing her in the bath and insinuating that she left the door open so that he could see. I imagine this is not the first time Peter has tried something like this. I mean, he's clearly not the best guy, and this most likely is at least partially why Maria is not such a fan of him. She accuses him of acting childish, and he fires back, they're the ones being childish, playing house with an animal. While cleaning up some stuff in the barn, Peter happens upon a drum kit and surprisingly has some skills on the skins. He finds an unexpected audience in Ada watching nearby, and Peter further shows his lack of respect for the family. Pulling some grass out of the earth, he offers it to Ada, cooing, "Come here, my little sheep." Ingvar is pissed at the sight, demanding to know why he can't leave a good thing alone, and snatches the child away. He doesn't back down, shouting back, "It's not a child, it's an animal!" Since he thinks his brother is in the wrong here, Peter decides to take matters into his own hands, grabbing a rifle and leading Ada away from the house, innocently holding hands. He trains the gun right at her, ready to put the abomination down, but we don't know if he fired. Maria wakes up later feeling something is off after noticing the empty crib. She frantically searches the house and surprisingly finds Peter snuggling with the child. See, even he couldn't do it. She's too cute. It's almost like she's just this innocent, pure creature of love that you cannot help but become enamored with. Maria goes to pay her respects at some gravestones on their land, and as we might have suspected, amongst the three is one marked for Ada. Certainly they lost their child tragically in some way, and Maria has been struggling with this, and Ada, the lamb one, is acting as a stand-in for the daughter they lost. The point is, they don't care if she's a lamb thing or whatever. To them, they have the one thing they wanted the most. Ada has returned to them. Later, Ingvar puts her to bed with an appropriate story regarding a perfect princess. No one was as sweet and mild as her. I had a feeling that this might be a real story, and that is the case. Dimmalim, I'm sure I butchered the pronunciation of that, an Icelandic fairy tale regarding a princess and a prince that was transformed into a swan. Thanks to her niceness, he gets to return to his human form. It's actually weirdly difficult to find much info on this after some searching, so it must be a tale very specific to Iceland. The connection to the princess and Ada are clear, and this further expands on that pure, sweet soul of love thing that she represents. He grows quite emotional reading the story, and there's a flash of him out in some wetlands with his pooch, and he calls out for Ada. We don't see much here, but perhaps this is when they lost her, and he feels some personal responsibility for what happened. Having their own little lamb princess also has a positive impact on Maria and Ingvar's marriage, seen smiling, staring off at their precious child. Little Ada even helps out on the farm. Everyone everyone just exuding happiness and satisfaction. The family is back, baby! Peter steps up to help with Ada as well, taking her out fishing and teaching her some rhymes, even though he admits they didn't really help him much in life. The time alone allows them to make love after what I'm sure has been a very long break. Ada and Peter return with fish, the couple there drinking and playing cards, having a grand old time. Again, the vibe here is very different from those opening dinner scenes, much more open and relaxed. They rope in Peter to do some drinking as well, and watch a stickball match, which they are quite into, seeming to upset Ada when Ingvar deems all the player to be losers. So they switch to something a little more upbeat. Maria pulls out a VHS tape featuring a music video starring none other than Peter. He sheepishly asks them to turn it off, Maria laughing, "Look how cute and cool he was." Yeah, what happened to you, man? You could have been a star with moves like that. He joins in with his on-screen persona and remembers all of the choreography by heart. The beat kicks in and they start dancing with Ada, everyone quite amused. But Ada still looks a bit uncomfortable and leaves without anyone noticing. They're too busy dancing, really getting into it, and Ingvar comes in with more booze. She runs outside to the barn, the dog there watching. Ada rounds the corner and stops, hearing that low breathing. The beast has returned. The dog runs after it and it sounds like it gets attacked. She flees from her father and once more gazes upon her reflection, considering where does she belong, especially as she does seem to be happy here with the couple. The others are completely oblivious, getting real loosey-goosey, playing some sports of their own. Ingvar goes to block a shot and tumbles over, wisely deciding that it is time to get some sleep. Ada appears at the door and he calls her over to crawl in bed while he falls asleep. In the kitchen with Peter, he starts getting a bit flirty again and tries to grab her, but she again pushes him away immediately. So he plays his trump card, asking if Ada knows that she killed her mother, making things suddenly quite tense. She leads him on, breathily telling him to come, and takes him around the corner and starts making out with him. It's all a trick, pushing him through a door and locking him in the room. He yells out, annoyed that this isn't funny, and pleads for her to open up. Rather than comply, she takes a seat at the piano, playing louder and louder to drown out his moans. Out in the fields, we get confirmation the dog was indeed killed, and their kitty is out there too, poking their head over the grass. What are you doing, kitty? Maria comes to a sleeping Ingvar, giving Ada a kiss and tenderly rubs his face. Taking advantage of the moment, she decides to get rid of Peter, ordering him that it is time to go. She drops him off at a bus stop and forks over a handful of cash that he begrudgingly takes before hopping on board. Well, good. Hopefully that takes care of that. Lousy deadbeat brothers. Get lost. Ingvar wakes up later, and impressively, it looks like Ada has prepared breakfast all by herself. I mean, there's no one else here, so who else would it have been, you know? It's just funny to think about. She's really learning a lot. She definitely has a high intelligence and comprehension, despite never actually speaking. She takes a seat watching him eat and clutching the cat. Also adorable, almost too adorable really. They go out for a walk and Ingvar helps teach her how to navigate the area so she can always find her way back home, using landmarks like the mountains or the river, so she can get home even if there's fog, which they have a lot of around here apparently. He attempts to get the tractor started to no avail, sending them back up the trail and off to check on the fishing nets. Maria arrives at the empty house, hearing some odd noises in the distance, followed by a gunshot, sending her sprinting towards the sound. But who the heck is firing, and at what? We quickly see that it was Ingvar that was shot, bleeding profusely from the neck, little Ada watching on helplessly. A much larger lamb dude is there wielding a gun, who must certainly be the beast from the opening, and technically Ada's father. He continues bleeding out with Ada there cradling his chest somberly. The lamb man drops the gun, reaching out a hand to Ada, pulling her away. Ingvar weakly tries to hold on to her but loses his grip, watching as they trudge off towards the mountains hand in hand. She gives a sad look back, tears welling in her eyes, as Ingvar breathes shallowly, unable to do anything. Tragically, by the time Maria makes it to him, he's already dead. She lifts him, taking him in her arms, pleading to know what happened, but he's already gone. She starts taking in the situation and squeals in sheer misery. She stares off into the vast wilderness and tries to assure him everything will be okay, rocking his body in her arms. She then stands up, looking around, considering what to do now that she's lost everything she held dear. Things end abruptly at this moment and really leaves us with an inconclusive feeling. What comes next for Maria? Well, we'll circle back to that and start with probably the biggest question. What the hell are these lamb people? What is the deal with that? Even introducing the dad at the end left me even more curious about the species' whole deal. I thought, you know, maybe he's like a mythological creature or something like that. When pressed for answers on the matter, the director admits he doesn't know either. There is no direct reference or adaptation. It's just a lamb dude. Apparently, the entire project started entirely from this visual, something Valdemar had on his mind for a long time, and the story, as it were, was developed around this central visual figure. As we know from how the story plays out, it's almost like it's purposefully telling you as little in detail as possible, the intent to leave things open to our own interpretations rather than anything concrete. So while we don't know much about the hybrids beyond what's seen on screen, and that they didn't originate in any local folklore, there is certainly a fairy tale slant to the story, unfolding as a kind of moral affair. Tying things back to Christmas, there is some inspiration to the story from Icelandic Christmas folklore, where unlike the Jolly Santa, they have the evil witch Gryla, who will take you and eat you. If that's not enough, she has 13 sons, known as the Yule Lads, who come and snatch you or do bad things to you. Man, I love how dark this stuff is compared to American Christmas stuff. It's kind of fascinating and hilarious. So with that background in mind, I'm sure it's no accident that the beast first visits them on the holiday. It makes it all feel like a kind of test for the couple to see what they do. We come to understand just how much they are unable to move on from losing Ada and quickly take the lamb child in as their own. But you know, technically they are taking something that isn't theirs. That's where the kind of fable or moral side of things comes in. And then of course, she murders a mother in cold blood, so there's that too. She perhaps in a way knew what they were doing was wrong, but was too entrenched in having their family back as a whole to care. She wasn't gonna let anything get in her way. That's why it feels like the ultimate outcome of losing Ada and her husband is a kind of karmic punishment for the wrongdoing. It was just a matter of time until they had to face their comeuppance. It was just a matter of time until they had to face their comeuppance. That brings us back to the final moments with Maria in the aftermath of losing everything. It's a brutal outcome to be sure, but it seems that she might understand why this happened or why she in a way deserved it. That would also explain why she doesn't go immediately running after Ada. She has learned a lesson thanks to this crazy experience. The whole fairy tale moral of the story in a way. Don't take what isn't yours. So when it comes to Maria and what comes next, while I might have initially considered that she was devastated, it feels more like she has finally learned to give up what she can't have, her daughter back. That inability to move on is what spurned this whole thing in the first place. Numi agrees on the character's ultimate fate, that it's less bleak entirely, but more of a painful hope. She comes to understand that happiness is fleeting. It's all on borrowed time, and really believes that thanks to this experience, she is starting a new chapter in her life, finding the grit to know that life will go on despite all the pain. She started the film closed off, which shunted her healing process. She was blocked. In the end, she's wide open, so in that way, it is the beginning of something new. Again, I don't think I would have been able to glean as much from that final moment as Numi, but it really does enhance the entire point and intention behind the story. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of this ending explained for Lamb. And don't forget, before we go, you can send me requests for any movies or TV shows you'd like to see me explain by sending them my way on any of my social media accounts at FoundFlix. What did you guys think of Lamb and its ending? Do you have a different interpretation of things? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Thanks for watching FoundFlix. See you next time.